Hi friends, welcome to the studio. This face tracking is crazy. Let's turn it off. I'm excited to be in here today. I actually just recently rearranged the studio, so this is going to be my first project in the new layout. And by rearrange, I mean I moved my big table from being in one position to being in another position, which required me to move a bunch of other things. But I'm really happy with how it looks. I'm super curious with how it functions. And I have a couple days in the studio this week to just sort of play. So one of the things I'm going to get started with is a really simple sewing pattern. It's called the Morning Glory Top by Sarah Kirsten. A really easy pattern from what I can tell, and a really nice kind of like slouchy summer top. So I'm gonna get started with that for today and then just see where I land when I'm done with it, what I've got time for, and maybe I'm gonna make some other patterns. I'm trying to be a little scrappy and use patterns I already have because there's always another pattern that you want to buy, but I want to make sure that I'm using what I've got instead of just buying patterns forever and ever. It's kind of like the TBR stack of books where you're like buying another book despite the fact that there are 5 books you have to read. So that's where I'm at. Let's make this top together and then let's make some other stuff. I don't know. We're just gonna see what happens. Thanks for being here and let's get into it. I'm gonna go this way. I'm not sure yet what fabric I want to use, but I do have some random fabrics in here that I'm going to take a look at, and maybe there's something in there that would be a good fit. I have been interested in making a top using this fabric, which is from my grandma. Looks like it is a cotton. Yeah, I wonder if it would be the right size fabric. I really like this sort of multicolored striping on it. It's super lightweight, and I do feel like it would be pretty as a top. There's also this purple silk voile, which is a little bit thicker. I had originally bought this interested in making some type of like bandanas or scarves with it, but I do think it would make a pretty top in terms of the colors. There's also this really soft fabric, although it could be nice to save this for a skirt. I don't know, the stripes aren't typically what I would go for. The fabric just is so good on the hands that it makes me curious. And then I do have some other just kind of like random bits and bobs in here that could be nice. Some bed sheets, some scarves. I do like the idea of putting together something using something really lightweight like this. Yeah, I have some really great options, and this is just kind of like a randoms bin. I've got a lot of other stuff elsewhere. I need to do some measurements for this top. So first I need to measure the length from my shoulder to the top of my hip. And then I need the circumference of my bust. And then the circumference of my bicep by my armpit. So took my sweater off for this one. And now I'm gonna measure my muscle. Here I go. And these 3 dimensions are gonna be what informs the size of fabric that I cut out. All right, now I'm going to measure out and see if this will work for what we're doing. I feel like it should, but you never know. It's hard for me to guesstimate. Based on my measurements, I need to cut a rectangle that is 20 inches by 23.25 inches. So here I go. I folded it in half widthwise. I'm gonna go in and just clean up some of the edges that are not cut quite right. And now I'm going to do a couple of the cuts that the pattern asks for. I'm pretty sure I'm creating not pretty sure, I am creating the front of the shirt. So there will be like a neckline hole and then some type of indicator for where the arms connect to the back half of the shirt. I like that it's kind of like more DIY. Like you don't have to print any pattern pieces out for this, but it also requires me to have some confidence in my math skills and my cutting skills. And I'm nervous. I don't want to ruin the fabric, but I guess that's the point of making a draft before you make something with fabric you like, and I will literally never have the patience to do that. So, to thy own self be true. I'm gonna keep going. I use my skills of master guesstimation for the neck hole. And now I'm gonna measure 2 inches from the top and cut a diagonal line from here to here. More math. I need to use my cool bicep measurement to mark where my armhole is gonna be. I have the front of my shirt cut out, and now I need to use my big silly L shape to cut out the back pieces. I'm not totally sure if I'm gonna need to do some patchworking with this in order to make it work, but either way, it'll look fine. I believe in it, I'm trusting the process. Yeah, I'm realizing I made this horizontal striped. Maybe I wanted it to be vertical striped. It's kind of too late. I mean, it's too late. It's too late. Maybe I could do vertical stripes on the back. I like that idea of like having the front be horizontal and the back be vertical. Yeah, let's plan for that. Here is my solution to the lack of fabric problem. So I am going to lay out the top here. What I need actually is 2 layers of fabric that are the same width as this if it was fully open. I don't have that. So what I'm gonna do is lose a couple inches off the bottom. I'm totally fine with that. And I'm going to cut diagonally across, and it's going to create 2 pieces here and a piece here, and then I will just sew these pieces together during my assembly. All right, I've got all my pieces made now. So I've got the full front and then the back pieces. I think I'm gonna use orange thread for this, which means I need to rethread my machine and thread my bobbin. Here's the stitch. Unfortunately, I have some qualms with the top. Specifically, I think I didn't make my armholes big enough. I didn't accommodate my freaking muscles. So I'm actually considering turning the top into a tank top, but I'm going to try it on so you can see where it's at right now. I think part of what I ran into is the seams are French seams, and I just think I lost a little bit too much fabric while making the French seams. And I've already seam ripped one and had to do a bunch of other stuff. So essentially, I'm just going to work with what's happening versus backing up and trying to make the long sleeve work. But let me put it on for you. So it's like really pulling and tight around the arms and like almost like creates too much tension at the neck. So I am gonna try to, well, it's gonna work. I'm gonna take the arm sleeves off, and I might also add a little bit more depth in the scoop here so it's not such a tight fit along the shoulders. Generally, you know, it's coming together. The fabric feels really nice. It's just, yeah, just a little off. Yeah, worst case scenario, it's just kind of a wonky top, and I learned a lot. Okay, I have made the adjustments. So not only did I open the neckline a bit more, but I also shortened the sleeves, and generally I think that I took the top in a little bit on the sides as well. I was struggling with the French seams and the armholes after taking the sleeves in, so ended up making it a little bit more slender on the sides than originally planned. But look at the back. I love how it turned out. I love how long these tails are. I really like the vertical stripes, and I do wish that the front of the top was also vertical stripes, but you know, it's just one of those things. That's just the way it goes. I love the feeling of the material, and it's a perfect, cozy summer top. Again, the pattern is Morning Glory from Sarah Kirsten. I'll put it in the description below. And yeah, thanks for joining me on this little discovery. I'm going to see what else I can get up to in the studio today before I head out. All right, chickens. So while I was feeling extremely hopeful in the last clip that I could get even more done in the studio today, realistically, I should probably just like clean up and go home and eat a snack before the next thing I have on my schedule. So I'm gonna do a little cleanup montage. You're welcome to stay for that. I'll probably just kind of, you know, show a couple things here and there, but overall, thanks for watching. I really appreciate your time and energy and attention. And I look forward to having you in the studio again soon. If there's anything in particular you're curious about with my sewing process, with any of my other creative processes, with my studio in general, yeah, let me know. I'd love to talk about it here on YouTube or on my Substack or on Patreon, which is a place where you can get some fun art mail from me every month. Okay. I'm gonna go. You can just watch me clean. Okay, bye.
Bye.